Hey guys, tonight we're going to explore something that might just change the way you move through your day. And, more importantly, the way you drift into your night. Imagine living a life where nothing could shake your calmness. Someone criticizes you. You smile. Problems show up uninvited. You stay steady. The world feels like chaos outside, but inside you're as peaceful as a quiet lake at sunrise. If peace had a price tag, you probably couldn't afford it. Good thing it's free. We're about to step into 10 timeless Buddhist principles that can help you build that kind of inner strength so that no matter what life throws at you, your peace remains untouched. These teachings aren't dusty old ideas meant for monks in distant temples. They're practical tools you can use right now, tonight, in the middle of your messy, busy, beautiful modern life. Before we dive in, I'd love for you to do something simple. Drop a comment with your city and the local time you're watching this. It's always amazing to see this little global community come alive. People tuning in from New York, San Francisco, maybe even a quiet town in Montana, all breathing together for a moment of calm. And of course, before you get too comfortable, take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That way you'll always know when the next story is waiting to guide you into sleep. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You'll hear stories, parables, and gentle reflections, sometimes serious, sometimes a little playful, that point back to the same truth. Peace comes from within, and nothing outside you has the power to disturb it, unless you hand it that power. As we begin, take a deep breath in and let it out, slowly. Imagine you're setting down the heavy bags you've been carrying all day. Work stress, that awkward conversation, even the laundry waiting for you tomorrow morning, it can all wait. For now, you're stepping into a quiet space where each word is an invitation to soften, to release, and to rest. The journey tonight starts with purpose. What does it mean to have a clear direction in life? Why does it matter for your inner calm? A monk once compared it to sailing across the ocean. Without a map, every wave feels like a threat. But with a compass pointing north, even the storm becomes manageable. That's where we'll go first, into the strength of firm purposes and how they become your anchor. Firm purpose. Picture this. You're driving on a long, empty highway at night. The dashboard glows softly, the road hums under your tires, and the stars above feel endless. If you don't know where you're going, every turnoff, every sign, even every gas station feels like a decision you're not sure how to make. But when you have a clear destination, a firm purpose, suddenly the whole trip feels different. You know where you're headed, and even when the road gets bumpy, you can handle it because you've got a map in your mind. That's what purpose does for your life. In Buddhism, building resilience, this deep, unshakable strength, begins with knowing what truly matters to you. It's not about being busy or juggling endless goals like spinning plates. It's about clarity. About waking up in the morning and remembering why you're here, what you're walking toward, and why it matters. Think of your purpose as a star in the sky. Sailors once navigated entire oceans using stars. Even in the middle of storms, even when the waves towered above them, that star gave direction. Without it, the sea would just be chaos. With it, every challenge became something they could endure. Your firm purpose is that guiding star. Buddha put it simply. Your work is to discover your work, and then with all your heart to give yourself to it. Notice how he doesn't say, find the easiest work, or find the most popular path. He says, discover it. That means it's already there, waiting inside you like a seed. Your job is just to uncover it, water it, and then give yourself fully. So how do you do that in the middle of modern American life, with work deadlines, student loans, and the constant ping of notifications? It starts small. Each morning before you scroll through your phone, before the caffeine kicks in, pause. Sit up in bed, feet on the floor, and ask yourself, what truly matters to me today? Not the grocery list, not the emails, the deeper stuff. Maybe it's showing kindness. Maybe it's finishing that project that actually excites you. Maybe it's simply remembering that your health and peace are worth more than any paycheck. When you practice this daily reminding yourself of your purpose, you're building a foundation that stress, criticism, or chaos can't shake. It's like pouring concrete at the base of a house. Everything else might sway in the wind, but that foundation stands firm. Let's make it relatable. Imagine you're at work and your boss throws a last-minute task at you. Without purpose, it feels like an attack. Why me? Why now? With purpose, you pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I'm here to learn, to grow, to support my family, to live with integrity. Suddenly, the frustration doesn't control you. You've got a bigger picture in mind. Or maybe you're a parent and your kid is melting down in the grocery store aisle over cereal. Without purpose, you react with embarrassment or anger. With purpose, you think, I'm here to raise this little human with love, patience, and guidance. You still set boundaries, sure, but your response is calmer, steadier, rooted in something deeper than the noise of the moment. Purpose doesn't mean life gets easy. Far from it. It means you stop letting small storms knock you over. You know what you're fighting for, what you're moving toward, so you don't crumble at every obstacle. You become like a ship that stays steady through rough waters because it's following its compass, not the waves. And here's the beautiful part. Purpose isn't about perfection. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. You just start with the questions. What matters most to me? What values do I want to live by? What do I want people to feel when they experience my presence? When you keep those questions alive, the answers begin to show themselves. Maybe in a conversation with a friend, maybe in the quiet hum of your evening walk, maybe even right here, as you listen, half drifting into sleep. Now, here's a little practice you can try tonight, even as your eyelids grow heavy. Picture one thing that matters deeply to you, something you'd want to stand for, even when life feels tough. Hold it gently in your mind, like a candle flame cupped between your hands. Notice how even in the darkness, that single flame brings light. That's your purpose. Protect it, nurture it, and let it guide you through tomorrow. And here's the thing. When you live with purpose, people notice. They see that calm in you, that focus, and they respect it. Not because you're louder or smarter, but because you're steady. In a world that's always rushing, steadiness feels magnetic. So as you sink deeper into this story, ask yourself, what's the star I'm following? What's the work I'm here to give my whole heart to? Because when you know that, when you wake up each day with that clarity, you become resilient, untouchable almost. And that's exactly where our next journey will take us. The art of becoming untouchable, no matter what others say or do. Untouchable. Peace. Imagine someone at work says something sharp, almost designed to get under your skin. Or maybe a family member knows exactly which button to push, and they press it with a smirk. In that moment, your chest tightens, your jaw sets, and the heat rises. You can feel the storm inside building fast. Now pause here. What if you had a secret shield? A way to let their words pass by without cutting you? What if you could walk away untouched, still calm, still steady, still yourself? That is the art of becoming untouchable, not in a cold or distant way, but in the sense that no one else gets to control your peace of mind. Buddhism teaches that suffering often doesn't come from the situation itself, but from how we react to it. The insult is not the problem. The problem is the way it hooks into us, pulling us toward anger or shame. But here's the truth. No one can hurt you without your consent. Their words, their actions, they don't define you. Your response does. Think about this in everyday life. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You can shout, slam the horn, carry that irritation into your whole day. Or you can breathe, loosen your grip on the wheel, and let it go. The event is the same, but your experience changes completely depending on the response you choose. That's untouchable peace. Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." It's not the rude driver or the mean coworker or the snarky comment online that really hurts you. It's the anger inside that burns hotter than any words. It eats up your energy, clouds your judgment, and leaves you drained. When you refuse to hand your peace over to anger, you protect yourself. You stay whole. So how do you practice this? Start with the pause. The next time someone tries to provoke you, imagine yourself putting up a gentle shield. Breathe once, twice, slowly. Let the words float past instead of pulling them into your heart. You don't have to agree. You don't have to like it, but you also don't have to let it stick. It's like catching a ball that someone throws and then calmly setting it down instead of throwing it back harder. At first, it feels impossible. You'll catch yourself snapping back or stewing over what they said. That's normal. But each time you pause, each time you resist the urge to hand over your calmness, you grow stronger. The shield gets lighter, easier to carry, until one day you realize that insults bounce right off. You've become untouchable in the best way. This isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. If something needs to be addressed, you can address it, but from a place of clarity, not reaction. Imagine the difference between responding in the heat of anger and responding after a deep breath, grounded in calm. One creates chaos, the other creates solutions. Let's put it into a real scenario. Imagine yourself Thanksgiving dinner, and a relative brings up politics just to get a rise out of you. The table grows tense. Everyone looks your way. Without this practice, you might fire back. Voices rise, and the night is ruined. With untouchable peace, you breathe, smile lightly, and maybe change the subject to dessert. The jab doesn't land because you don't let it, and suddenly the evening is saved. Here's another everyday example. Social media. Comments, criticism, trolling, it's all out there. Without this skill, each harsh word can feel like a stone thrown at you. But when you remember that those words only matter if you pick them up and carry them, you set yourself free. Scroll on, keep your peace, and remember that their words say more about their pain than about your worth. This practice turns into a kind of quiet confidence. People notice that you don't get rattled so easily. They may even test you at first, but over time, they respect it. Your calmness becomes magnetic, a kind of silent strength. And when you hold this kind of presence, you also give permission for others to soften too. Right about here, I want to pause and invite you into the conversation. If there's a principle or a story so far that really resonates with you, share it in the comments. Maybe it's the idea of having a guiding purpose. Maybe it's this shield of untouchable peace. Let me know which one feels most powerful to you. As you sit with this idea, notice your breath again. Inhale slowly, feel your chest expand. Exhale, release the tension in your shoulders. Imagine all the small insults, all the petty words, floating away like leaves in the wind. They don't belong to you. They never did. Your calm is yours to protect, yours to keep. Becoming untouchable doesn't make you less human. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose not to let those feelings run wild and take control. You still care, you still engage, but you do it from a steady center. That's where your strength lies. Now imagine carrying this into tomorrow. You wake up, set your intention, step into the world with your shield of calm. Criticism may come, traffic may jam, the phone may buzz with stress, but none of it shakes you. You smile, you breathe, You keep walking, and each step feels lighter because you're carrying peace instead of anger. As we move forward, keep this thought close. You don't control what others say or do, but you always control your response. And in that choice lies freedom. Freedom to stay calm, freedom to stay kind, freedom to stay untouchable. And yet, there's more to explore. Because sometimes, it isn't just words that sting. Sometimes it's outright insults, sharp and personal, aimed right at the core of who you are. How do you handle those moments without losing your peace? That's where our journey will take us next, facing insults. Picture this moment. You're walking down the street, feeling pretty good, maybe sipping a coffee, maybe humming to yourself, when suddenly someone throws out an insult. It could be about how you look, how you act, or something you care about deeply. The sting is real. Your stomach tightens. Your mind scrambles to fire back, to defend, to prove them wrong. That flash of heat can ruin your whole day if you let it. But here's where the teaching comes in. Buddhism offers a different way to see insults, not as attacks you must fight against, but as opportunities. Opportunities to practice patience. Opportunities to strengthen self-control, and most surprisingly, opportunities to show compassion. When someone insults you, it usually says far more about them than it does about you. Maybe they're carrying anger from something that happened earlier. Maybe they're drowning in their own insecurity and they just need somewhere to spill it. And for whatever reason, in that moment, you became the target. When you see it this way, you can start to loosen your grip. Their words don't actually define you. They don't change your worth. They only hurt if you let them sink in. It's like someone handing you a burning coal. If you refuse to pick it up, you don't get burned. If you grab it tight, you're the one who suffers. Buddha once said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love." This is the eternal rule. That means if someone throws an insult and you throw anger back, all you've done is keep the fire burning. But if you respond with calm, maybe even kindness, you break the chain. You protect your peace, and sometimes you even soften theirs. This doesn't mean you have to smile and pretend the insult was nice. It means you choose not to let it control you. You breathe, you pause, and you decide, do I want to carry this anger all day, or do I want to set it down? The choice is always yours. Let's make it real. Imagine being at school, at work, or even just online, and someone takes a jab at you. Without this practice, you might snap back with something even harsher. It escalates. The mood spirals. Everyone loses. With this practice, you stop. You breathe. You remind yourself, their words reflect their pain, not my truth. You stay calm. Maybe you say nothing. Maybe you respond with a light smile or even a gentle word. And just like that, the fire fizzles out. At first, it feels like weakness. You might think, if I don't defend myself, I'm letting them win. But think carefully. Who's really winning? The one who loses control, or the one who stays calm, steady, untouchable? The real strength is in not letting someone else's negativity decide your mood. That's power. Now, I want to bring you back to your breath. Inhale deeply, hold it for a second, and then exhale slowly. Imagine every insult you've ever heard drifting away on that breath. They were never yours to keep. They were echoes of someone else's struggle. You don't have to carry them anymore. And here's something practical you can try next time. When an insult lands, pause and ask yourself, what does this really say about me? Then ask, what does it say about them? 9 times out of 10, the insult reflects their frustration, not your value. That tiny shift in perspective can free you in the moment. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is not to react at all. Silence can be a powerful answer. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Silence means mastery. It means you're in charge of your inner world, and no stray word from outside can shake it. I want to invite you right here to think of a time when someone's words stung. Maybe it was recent, maybe years ago. Notice how the memory still carries a little weight. And now, imagine what it would have been like if you had paused, breathed, and let it pass. How much lighter would that moment feel in your memory today? Share one of those moments in the comments if you feel comfortable. Sometimes just putting it into words helps release it. Every insult can be transformed into a lesson in patience. Each time you practice not taking offense, you strengthen your inner shield. Over time, you'll find that insults bounce off with less force. They lose their power, and eventually you realize you don't even notice them anymore. They're just noise in the background of your calm. This isn't about becoming indifferent to people. It's about choosing how to meet them. When someone lashes out, maybe what they need most is not your anger, but your calm presence. Sometimes your refusal to get pulled into their storm is the very thing that helps them quiet down. So, the next time someone throws an insult your way, remember, you can't control their words, but you can control your response. And that response can be calm, steady, untouchable. As we move forward in this journey, we'll go one step deeper. Because insults are one thing, but what about when people actively speak badly about you, spreading negativity behind your back? How do you keep your peace when your reputation feels attacked? That's where we're headed next. When they speak ill, it's one thing to handle an insult face to face. You hear it, you breathe, you choose your response. But what about when the words aren't said to your face? What about when people speak badly about you behind your back? That sting can feel even sharper because you can't defend yourself, you can't explain. You just hear whispers, rumors, opinions carried from one person to another, and suddenly your peace feels fragile. In those moments, the mind wants to fight. It wants to rush in, prove the truth, shout, "That's not who I am." But Buddhism offers another path. It reminds us that words, even negative ones, are not reality. They are echoes of someone else's mind, shaped by their own pain, their own jealousy, their own misunderstanding. The truth of who you are is not defined by what others say. The truth of who you are lives in how you show up, day after day, in your actions, your choices, your values. Think about it. If someone describes the sky as green, does that change the sky? Of course not. The sky remains the sky, whether praised or mocked. In the same way, your worth, your integrity, your goodness, they remain intact no matter what someone says. The only real danger is believing the words yourself. Buddha once said, "Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you." When people spread negativity, the trouble follows them, not you. Their words are seeds they are planting in their own garden. If they plant weeds, weeds will grow. You don't have to carry that burden. Your task is to keep tending your own garden, planting kindness, honesty, compassion. Let your life speak louder than any rumor ever could. Picture a scenario. You find out a coworker has been speaking badly about you. Without this practice, your chest tightens, your mind spins, you might even confront them in anger. But with this practice, you pause. You remind yourself, their words are a reflection of them, not of me. You keep showing up with integrity. You keep doing your work with care. And slowly, people notice. They see your actions, they feel your presence, they know the truth, and the negative words lose their power. Or imagine scrolling through social media and stumbling on comments that twist your story, question your character. It's easy to feel crushed, but pause. Remember, those words do not define you. What defines you is how you respond. Do you lash out, add more negativity to the cycle, or do you breathe, remember your values, and respond with calm? Or perhaps not at all. Sometimes silence is the strongest answer. Silence shows that you are grounded enough not to be moved by every wave. Let's try a little exercise together. Think of one time someone spoke badly about you. Maybe it was at school, at work, or even in your family. Picture it clearly. Now breathe in slowly, and as you exhale, imagine those words drifting away like smoke. They dissolve into the air. They do not belong to you. They were never yours. You remain whole, steady, untouched. Here's the real strength. Choosing compassion. When someone speaks ill of you, they're often carrying their own burden, fear, jealousy, sadness. If you can see that, if you can look past the words to the pain underneath, something shifts. Instead of feeling attacked, you might feel compassion. You might even respond with kindness. That doesn't mean you accept what they said. It means you refuse to let their pain become your anger. In your own life, notice how powerful this can be. Imagine a neighbor spreading gossip. You stay kind, wave when you see them, continue living with integrity. Over time, others see the contrast between their words and your actions. And in that gap, the truth becomes clear. You didn't have to fight, you didn't have to argue. You just lived your values. Now, let me ask you, have you ever had someone misjudge you or speak badly about you, only to realize later that your actions told the real story? Share that experience in the comments if you'd like. Sometimes those stories remind others that they're not alone, that we all face these moments and we can all rise above them. The practice here is simple, but not easy. Focus on your values. Keep acting with honesty, compassion, and strength. Let your life do the talking. Over time, those who matter will see the truth, and those who don't, they were never the ones who defined your worth in the first place. Take another deep breath with me. Inhale, hold it, and exhale slowly. Feel the weight of those negative words slipping away. They were never yours to carry. What you carry instead is peace, grounded in your actions, rooted in your values. As we close this part of the journey, remember, you can't control what others say about you, but you can always control how you live. And that choice makes you untouchable. Next, we'll step into an even deeper teaching. The mind as a garden. Because if the words of others can't define you, what about the thoughts you allow to grow inside your own head? That's where we're headed, guarding your mind, so only the seeds of peace and strength can take root. Guarding the mind. Think of your mind as a garden. Every thought you have is like a seed. Some seeds grow into tall flowers, vibrant and full of life. Others grow into weeds that spread fast, choke the soil, and block the light. The garden doesn't care which seed you plant, it will grow whatever you give it. That's why guarding your mind is one of the most important practices of all. In daily life, it's easy to forget this. We let in every seed without noticing negative news, critical voices, endless comparisons on social media. Those seeds take root before we realize it. Suddenly, our garden is full of weeds, doubt, fear, anger, envy. They drain us, making everything feel heavier. But the truth is, you don't have to let every seed stay. You have the power to choose what grows. Buddhism teaches that the mind creates our world. What you think, you become, Buddha said. If your thoughts are full of worry, the world will seem frightening. If your thoughts are full of anger, the world will feel hostile. But if your thoughts are filled with gratitude, kindness, and patience, the world softens. It feels safer, brighter, more peaceful. Guarding your mind doesn't mean ignoring every negative thought. You can't stop them from showing up, but you can choose not to feed them. Picture a gardener pulling weeds before they spread too far. You can do the same and notice when a thought arises, breathe, and decide whether to let it stay. Here's a practice you can try tonight. As you're lying down, notice the thoughts running through your mind. When a negative one pops up, maybe worry about tomorrow, maybe regret from today. Don't fight it. Just see it clearly. Say to yourself, "This is a weed," and then picture letting it drift away, leaving space for something better to grow. Then plant a new seed. gratitude for something small, hope for what tomorrow might bring, or simply the peace of this moment. It's not about forcing positivity. It's about gently guiding your attention. Think of it like turning a radio dial. If the station you're on is full of static, you don't smash the radio. You just tune to a clearer signal. Your mind works the same way, and notice how this changes you. Imagine waking up and choosing to water seeds of kindness. You start the day with a thought like, "Today I will be patient." Throughout the day, whenever stress rises, that seed blossoms and reminds you of your choice. The weeds are still there, but they're smaller, weaker, easier to pull. This practice can transform simple moments. You're stuck in traffic, irritation starts to grow, but then you remember you don't have to water that weed. Instead, you turn on music you love, notice the sunset through your windshield, and suddenly the drive feels lighter. Or maybe you're about to scroll through your phone at night. Instead of diving into negativity, you choose to pause, breathe, and recall 3 things you're thankful for. That's planting flowers. Mindfulness meditation is like the gardener's most reliable tool. By sitting quietly and watching your thoughts, you become aware of which seeds you're planting. You see the weeds before they take over. You practice letting go again and again until your mind naturally begins to choose peace. Now, I want to hear from you. If you could plant just one seed in your mind to focus on this week, what would it be? Patience, gratitude, confidence, calm. Share it in the comments and notice how even naming it out loud starts to make it real. Guarding your mind is not about perfection. Weeds will always pop up. That's just how gardens work. But when you pay attention, when you choose which seeds to water, your inner garden becomes a place of strength, and that strength radiates outward. People around you will notice your calm, your clarity, your joy. Let's breathe together here. Inhale deeply, hold it for a moment, and exhale slowly. Picture your mind clearing like a freshly tended garden. You've pulled out the weeds, planted flowers, and now there's space for peace to grow. That's the gift you give yourself when you guard your mind. And yet, some of the toughest weeds aren't just random thoughts. They come from deep emotions. Fear of failing, shame from the past. These aren't small plants. They're thick vines that try to take over the whole garden. So how do you face them? How do you stop fear and shame from holding you back? That's the journey we'll take next. Overcoming fear and shame. Fear and shame are 2 of the heaviest emotions we carry. They creep in quietly, but when they take root, they can feel like thick vines wrapping around your chest, tightening with every breath. Fear tells you not to try, not to risk, not to step forward. Shame whispers that you're not good enough, that you don't belong, that no matter what you do, you'll fall short. These 2 emotions can paralyze even the strongest person, keeping you small when your heart is ready to grow. Buddhism teaches us to face them directly, not to run, not to hide, but to look at them with clear eyes and compassion. Fear is usually about the unknown, the test you haven't taken, the job you haven't started, the love you haven't confessed. The mind fills in the blanks with disaster, creating monsters where only shadows exist. Shame often comes from the past, from mistakes made, from harsh judgments you've absorbed from others. It's like carrying a backpack full of stones that no one else can see. You keep walking, but you're exhausted from the invisible weight. Here's the thing. Fear and shame aren't fixed truths. They're stories. Stories the mind tells to protect you, to keep you safe. But sometimes that protection becomes a prison. Facing them means gently asking, is this story true? Is this fear really certain? Is this shame really who I am? Often the answer is no. Imagine a child learning to ride a bike. They wobble, they fall, they scrape their knee. Fear would tell them to never get back on. Shame would say, you're clumsy, you'll never learn. But if the child listens with compassion instead, they'll hear another voice. Falling is part of learning. Every rider has fallen. This doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're growing. That's the shift Buddhism points us toward. In your own life, fear might keep you from applying for that job, speaking up in a meeting, or opening your heart in a relationship. Shame might keep you replaying old mistakes until you can't see the person you've become today. To break free, try this. When fear arises, breathe and say, "This is fear." It feels strong, but it's only a thought. When shame arises, breathe and say, "This is shame." It feels heavy, but it's not who I am. Naming them out loud loosens their grip. There's also power in compassion. You would never tell a close friend, "You're worthless, you'll never succeed." You'd encourage them, remind them of their strengths, remind them of their worth. So why not offer the same to yourself? Self-compassion is not weakness, it's strength. It's picking up that heavy backpack and finally setting it down. Try this practice with me now. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and picture the fear or shame you've been carrying. Maybe it's shaped like a stone, maybe like a vine. See it clearly. Then imagine placing it gently on the ground beside you. You don't need to throw it away in anger. You just set it down. Notice how much lighter you feel without it. Notice the space it leaves for courage, for self-acceptance, for peace. Overcoming fear and shame doesn't mean you'll never feel them again. They'll visit, just like weeds pop up in the garden. But now you'll recognize them. You'll see them for what they are, temporary feelings, not permanent truths. And with practice, you'll greet them like old acquaintances. Ah, here you are again. But I don't have to follow you. In American culture, there's so much pressure to succeed, to perform, to look perfect. Fear and shame thrive in that pressure. But you don't have to play by those rules. You can choose to live more authentically, to accept mistakes as part of growth, to see vulnerability as strength, not weakness, to let go of shame and walk forward with courage. Right here, I want to invite you into the conversation. If you've ever faced fear or shame that held you back, and you found a way to move through it, share that story in the comments. Your words might be the encouragement someone else needs tonight. Take another slow breath with me. Inhale, feel your lungs expand. Exhale, and imagine releasing fear, releasing shame, watching them drift away. What remains is courage. What remains is acceptance. What remains is you whole, worthy, unshaken. When you start to live this way, you discover that even the people who challenge you the most, the critics, the difficult co-workers, the strangers who test your patience, can actually become your greatest teachers. And that's exactly where we're heading next. How to transform everyone you meet into a relentless teacher on your path to peace. Everyone a teacher. Life is full of people who inspire us, frustrate us, test us, and sometimes confuse us. Some bring joy with their kindness, others stir irritation with their sharp edges. But what if every single person you met, no matter how pleasant or difficult, could be seen as a teacher? Buddhism invites us to take this radical perspective. It says, every encounter, every relationship, every challenge is a chance to learn. At first, it sounds impossible. How can someone who cuts you off in traffic or someone who gossips about you at work be a teacher? But think about it. Patience is not learned in moments of ease. Compassion is not tested when everyone is kind. Strength doesn't grow when life is smooth. The very people who frustrate us most are often the ones who help us practice the qualities we need most. Imagine being in line at the grocery store. The person ahead of you is fumbling with coupons, moving slowly, and you're late for something important. You feel irritation bubbling. In that moment, you can either surrender to frustration or see it differently. This person becomes your teacher of patience. They didn't sign up for the role, but there it is. You breathe, soften your shoulders, and wait with grace. Lesson learned. Or think of someone who constantly criticizes you. Their words sting, but they also give you the opportunity to practice resilience, to stop letting outside voices control your peace. Without their challenge, you might never learn how strong your shield really is. In a strange way, they've become your teacher of inner strength. This doesn't mean you have to like everyone, or accept harmful behavior, or stay in toxic situations. A teacher doesn't always stay in your life forever. Sometimes the lesson is to set boundaries, to walk away, to protect your well-being. But even then, the encounter taught you something valuable: how to stand up for yourself with wisdom and care. When you begin to see the world this way, every day becomes a classroom. The stranger who smiles at you teaches gratitude. The rude customer at work teaches composure. The friend who listens teaches compassion, and the person who betrays you teaches the importance of forgiveness, whether or not you choose to continue the relationship. Now, pause for a moment. Think of one person in your life who really tests you. Maybe a colleague, maybe a family member, maybe a stranger online. Ask yourself, what lesson are they offering me? It might be patience, humility, self-awareness, or even courage. This small shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of feeling only attacked, you start to feel challenged to grow. Buddha often reminded us that humility is key to wisdom. When we see everyone as a teacher, we step into humility. We admit that we don't know it all, that growth is a lifelong process. Even the youngest child, even the most difficult neighbor, even the person who seems lost can still carry a lesson for us. Here's a practice you can try tomorrow. Choose one interaction, any interaction, and look for the lesson. Maybe it's the barista at your coffee shop. Maybe it's the driver in front of you. Maybe it's your best friend. Ask, what are they teaching me right now? If you do this regularly, life becomes less about frustration and more about discovery. And now, I'd like to bring you into the circle. Who has been a surprising teacher in your life? Was it someone kind, or was it someone difficult who taught you more than you expected? Share it in the comments, because your story might help someone else see their own challenging relationships in a new light. Breathe with me here. Inhale slowly, feel your chest expand. Exhale, and imagine every person you've met today as a teacher walking across the stage of your life. Some stay for a moment, some linger longer, but each leaves you with something: patience, courage, compassion, or clarity. You don't have to like every lesson, but you can choose to learn from it. As this perspective deepens, you'll find that your world feels more connected, less random. Even the hard moments start to make sense as part of a bigger tapestry. And with that, you grow stronger, calmer, more open-hearted. But there's another piece to this journey. Because while people can teach us patience and compassion, what anchors us in all these lessons is having an ethical code, a set of principles so steady they keep us grounded no matter what storms we face. And that's where our path will take us next. Unshakable ethics. Picture a tall tree in the middle of a storm. The rain pours, the wind roars, branches bend and twist. And yet, the tree stands firm because its roots run deep. That's what an ethical code is in your life: roots that keep you steady, no matter how rough the storm becomes. Buddhism teaches that building inner strength doesn't come only from meditation or breathing exercises. It comes from the way you live, the choices you make every single day. When you live by a clear set of values, your actions and words become aligned. And when they're aligned, you stop wobbling. You stop second-guessing yourself in every situation. You gain a quiet confidence that others can feel, because you're living with integrity. The Buddha often spoke of the 5 precepts. Do not harm living beings. Do not take what is not given. Avoid harmful sexual conduct. Speak truthfully, and keep the mind clear by avoiding intoxicants. These are not rigid commandments. They are more like promises you make to yourself, a compass to guide your steps. And when you follow them, your life begins to reflect stability and peace. Let's make it practical. Imagine you're tempted to take a shortcut at work, maybe claiming credit for something you didn't do. Without an ethical code, the temptation is strong. But when you've already committed to honesty, the choice is clear. No debate, no storm inside. You walk away from the shortcut and keep your integrity intact. Or think about your relationships. Without an ethical code, you might be pulled by desire or impulse. But when you've rooted yourself in respect and kindness, you naturally treat others in ways that build trust instead of breaking it. This code becomes your anchor. Even when people around you bend their rules, even when society rewards cutting corners, you stay steady. It doesn't mean you're rigid. It means you're clear. Just like the roots of the tree allow it to bend without breaking, your ethics allow you to adapt without losing your core. And here's the surprising gift. When you live this way, you sleep better. Not because life is perfect, but because your conscience is clear. You don't lie awake replaying what you said, wondering if you betrayed your values. You rest knowing you acted with integrity. That kind of rest is priceless. Think of the people in your life you trust most. Chances are, it's not because they're flashy or brilliant. It's because they're consistent. You know where they stand. You know they'll tell you the truth. That's what an ethical code does. It makes you someone others can rely on. And in return, your relationships grow stronger. Now pause for a moment. Ask yourself, if I were to choose just one principle to live by more deeply this week, what would it be? Honesty, kindness, respect? Drop your answer in the comments and notice how even naming that one principle brings clarity. Ethics also protect you from regret. Mistakes will happen. You're human. But when you live by an ethical code, your mistakes become lessons rather than heavy chains. You can admit them, learn, adjust, and continue with integrity. Without a code, mistakes often spiral into guilt and confusion. With a code, they become stepping stones toward wisdom. Here's another image. Imagine you're hiking through the mountains without a trail. Every step is uncertain. You might get lost, or worse, fall into danger. Now imagine you're hiking the same mountains, but this time you have a trail marked clearly. The mountains are still steep, the weather still changes, but you know where you're going. Your ethical code is that trail. It doesn't remove challenges, but it gives you a way through them. In a culture that often celebrates speed, profit, and convenience, living ethically may feel like swimming upstream, but here's the paradox. When you hold fast to your values, you actually make life easier. Decisions that used to feel complicated become simple. You already know your direction. You already know what matters. Take a breath with me now. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. Picture your own life like that tree in the storm. Feel the strength of roots deep in the earth. No matter the noise around you, no matter the chaos, those roots keep you upright. That is what an unshakable ethical code offers you. As you live this way, others notice. They might not always agree with you, but they will respect the steadiness in your presence. And you'll find yourself moving through life with a confidence that doesn't depend on circumstances. It comes from within, from knowing your roots are deep. But living ethically isn't the only way to stay steady. There's another dimension to this practice, living in harmony with the natural flow of life itself. Instead of fighting change, instead of resisting what is, we can learn to live according to nature. And that's where we're going next. Living with nature. Imagine standing in a quiet forest. The trees sway with the wind, bending but never breaking. Birds sing, then fall silent. A river flows steadily nearby, not in a hurry, not in resistance, just moving with the natural rhythm of the earth. Nature has no need to rush, no need to fight. It simply is, and in that simple being, there is peace. Buddhism teaches us to live the same way, to align ourselves with the natural order of things, to recognize that everything has its rhythm. its cycle. When we fight against that rhythm, we suffer. When we align with it, we find harmony. Living with nature doesn't mean abandoning modern life or moving into the woods. It means learning to flow with change instead of exhausting ourselves resisting it. One of the core lessons of nature is impermanence. The seasons shift, leaves fall, flowers bloom, rivers rise and recede. Nothing stays the same, and yet nothing is lost. Everything transforms. When we forget this truth, we cling to what we want to keep, or we push away what we fear, and we suffer. But when we accept impermanence, we relax. We breathe easier, we stop demanding that life be something it isn't, and we begin to appreciate it as it is. Think about your own life. How many times have you wished a moment could last forever? A perfect evening, a joyful laugh, a relationship in its happiest stage. The truth is, those moments pass, just like summer turns to fall. But that doesn't make them less beautiful. In fact, their impermanence makes them precious. Like cherry blossoms that bloom only for a short time, their beauty is sharper because it doesn't last. On the other side, think about challenges you thought would never end. Grief, heartbreak, stress, loss. And yet here you are, still standing, proof that even the hardest winters eventually give way to spring. Impermanence is not the enemy. It's the promise that nothing good or bad lasts forever. Living with nature also means respecting our own limits. In modern culture, we're pushed to go faster, to do more, to grind until we break. But nature shows us that rest is part of the cycle. Trees don't bloom all year. The earth itself rests in winter. If we try to live endlessly in summer, endlessly producing, endlessly moving, we burn out. Living with nature means honoring the times when you need to slow down, when you need to rest, when you need to simply be. Here's a practice you can try. Tomorrow, step outside for a moment, whether it's a park, your backyard, or just the sidewalk. Notice the natural rhythms around you, the way the light shifts, the sound of the wind, the feel of the air on your skin. Then ask yourself, how can I align with this rhythm today? Maybe it's moving more gently, maybe it's pausing more often, maybe it's letting go of something you've been forcing. Nature also teaches simplicity. Look at a tree. It doesn't wish to be anything else. It doesn't compete with the tree next to it. It grows in its own way, at its own pace, and still it belongs fully to the forest. When we let go of the endless desire for more status, more possessions, more recognition, we make space for peace. True happiness doesn't come from collecting more, but from noticing the enough that is already here. Now, pause with me and take a deep breath. Inhale slowly, feel the air fill your lungs. Exhale, and imagine yourself releasing the need to control everything. Let yourself be like the tree, like the river, moving with the flow of life instead of fighting against it. I'd love to hear from you. When was the last time you felt most connected to nature? Was it during a hike, sitting by the ocean, or maybe just watching the sunset from your porch? Share it in the comments, because sometimes those small moments remind us of the wisdom that nature always offers. When you begin to live in harmony with nature, life feels less like a battle and more like a dance. You bend, you sway, you adapt, but you don't break. You let go when it's time to let go, and you embrace what comes with openness. And in that flow, peace is born. As this lesson settles, know that there is one more powerful principle waiting. Because even when we learn to live with purpose, to guard our mind, to face fear, to honor ethics, and to align with nature, life will still bring struggles. And in those struggles, one practice can turn even the darkest night into light. That practice is gratitude used not just as a gentle feeling, but as a powerful force. And that is where our journey will lead next. Gratitude as armor. Gratitude may sound soft, like a polite thank you whispered at dinner or a fleeting smile when someone holds the door. But in Buddhism, gratitude is not just a pleasantry, it is armor. It is a shield you can carry into the toughest days, the kind of shield that deflects negativity and transforms suffering into resilience. Gratitude is not fragile. Gratitude is powerful. Think about it. When you focus on what's missing, the world feels like scarcity. Nothing is enough. But when you focus on what you already have, suddenly the same life looks abundant. The job may still be stressful, the bills may still be due, but gratitude changes the lens. It reminds you that you have strengths, that you have support, that you have breath in your lungs right now. And that shift changes everything. Buddha often spoke of gratitude as a way to protect the heart. When you are thankful, anger struggles to grow. When you are thankful, envy loses its bite. Gratitude leaves less room for fear, because your attention is fixed on what is already good. It doesn't erase challenges, but it gives you the strength to meet them. Picture a soldier heading into battle, carrying armor that deflects arrows. Life throws arrows all the time, harsh words, sudden losses, disappointments. Gratitude doesn't stop the arrows from flying, but it softens their impact. Instead of piercing straight into your heart, they bounce off a little easier. You take less damage, you stay standing. In your own life, this might look like pausing during a stressful workday to remember that you still have meaningful connections, that you still have skills, that you still have opportunities. It might look like noticing the taste of your morning coffee and choosing to savor it instead of rushing past. Gratitude grounds you in what's real, in what's working, in what's worth holding on to. Here's a simple practice you can begin tonight. Before you fall asleep, name 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. In fact, the small ones often matter most. Maybe it's the sound of rain outside, the smile of a stranger earlier, or simply the comfort of your pillow. When you make this a daily ritual, your mind starts scanning for good things during the day, so you'll have something to add to your list at night. That shift in attention rewires your brain to look for the positive, even in tough times. And gratitude grows stronger when you share it. Think about how it feels when someone thanks you sincerely. It warms you, doesn't it? Now imagine giving that gift to others. Tell a friend you appreciate them. Thank a co-worker for their effort. Write a note to someone who made a difference. These small acts ripple outward, strengthening relationships and creating an environment of mutual respect. I want to invite you into this practice right now. In the comments, share one thing you are grateful for today. It could be simple or profound, but saying it out loud has power. Your gratitude might even inspire someone else to notice their own blessings. Science backs this up too. Studies show that people who regularly practice gratitude sleep better, stress less, and feel more satisfied with life. Gratitude literally changes the chemistry of your brain, calming the nervous system and lifting mood. So when I call it armor, I mean it in the most practical way. It's protection, rooted in both ancient wisdom and modern understanding. Take a slow breath with me. Inhale, and silently think of something you're thankful for. Exhale, and imagine that thankfulness spreading like light across your body, forming a shield of calm around you. Notice how even one thought of gratitude shifts your mood, softens your tension, and makes the world feel a little safer. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring pain. It doesn't mean pretending life is perfect. It means noticing the good even in the middle of the storm. It means carrying light into the dark places. And that light can transform how you move through each day. As you carry this shield forward, you may notice something else. The principles we've explored so far aren't meant to live separately. They weave together. Purpose, resilience, patience, ethics, gratitude. They all form a system of strength. So the question becomes, how do you bring them into your daily life in small, practical ways? That's the step we'll take next. Turning principles into practice, weaving them into the fabric of ordinary days. Daily practice. Principles are powerful, but without practice they remain like books left unread on a shelf. They may inspire you in the moment, but they don't change your life until you bring them into the rhythm of your days. Buddhism is not just a philosophy to think about. It is a way of living, breathing, and acting. And the real magic comes when the ideas we've explored, purpose, patience, gratitude, compassion, become part of the small choices you make every day. Daily practice doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need to sit cross-legged for hours or retreat to a monastery. It begins with small rituals, moments of awareness, little habits that anchor your mind in peace. The point is consistency. A drop of water falling every day eventually wears down a stone. In the same way, steady practice reshapes your mind, your reactions, your life. Let's walk through what this can look like. Start with the morning. Before the world rushes in with emails, alarms, and to-do lists, pause for just one breath. Put your feet on the floor, sit upright, and remind yourself of your purpose. Ask, what matters most to me today? This takes less than a minute, but it sets the tone. Your mind now has a compass, a star to follow, instead of wandering in every direction. During the day, practice pausing. When irritation rises, when someone tests your patience, when stress starts to build, stop for just 3 breaths. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Repeat. Those 3 breaths are like hitting the reset button, keeping your peace from slipping away. You can also build small gratitude check-ins. Maybe every time you wash your hands, you name one thing you're grateful for: the water, the health you still have, the warmth of the moment. Suddenly, even the ordinary act of washing becomes an anchor for positivity. Another daily practice is mindful eating. Instead of rushing through meals, slow down. Notice the taste, the texture, the effort it took for that food to reach your plate. Gratitude grows naturally when you eat with awareness, and your body feels calmer because you've shifted from stress to presence. Even at work, you can weave practice in. Choose to speak mindfully, with honesty and kindness. Choose to listen without planning your reply. Notice how these small adjustments change the energy of your interactions. You'll find yourself less reactive, more steady, more respected. And at night, close your day with reflection. You don't have to write a long journal. Just take 2 minutes before bed to ask yourself, what went well today? Where did I stay aligned with my values? Where could I have done better? This gentle reflection isn't about shame. It's about learning. Each day becomes a stepping stone to a stronger, calmer you. The key is not doing everything perfectly. The key is showing up again and again. If you miss a practice, simply return. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back. It's like training a puppy. You don't scold it harshly when it strays. You guide it with patience until it learns. Your mind is no different. Over time, these daily practices add up. You begin to notice that you don't react as strongly to insults. That stress doesn't linger as long. That gratitude comes more naturally. The transformation sneaks up on you, not through grand gestures, but through steady drops of practice shaping the stone of your life. Now, I want to invite you to reflect. If you were to add just one small practice to your day, what would it be? Morning purpose, 3 breath pauses, mindful eating, gratitude check-ins, evening reflection. Choose one and share it in the comments. Your choice may inspire someone else who's listening tonight. Take a breath with me now. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. Imagine your day tomorrow unfolding with tiny anchors of peace. A breath here, a pause there, a moment of gratitude, a word of kindness. These are the bricks that build a steady, resilient life. Daily practice turns wisdom into muscle memory. It keeps you grounded even when storms come. And once you start practicing, you'll notice the world will keep testing you. Work stress, family tension, unexpected challenges, they'll show up like storms rolling in. And that brings us to our next journey, how to navigate the storms of work and responsibility without losing your peace. Storms at work. Work can feel like a battlefield. Deadlines closing in, emails piling up, bosses demanding more, co-workers bringing their moods into the office. Sometimes it feels like you're carrying 10 umbrellas in a hurricane, trying to keep everything from blowing away. In these moments, the peace you've been cultivating can feel fragile, almost impossible to hold on to. But Buddhism reminds us that the storms at work, just like storms in nature, will always pass. The question is not whether they come, but how you choose to meet them. Stress at work often begins in the mind. We imagine outcomes before they arrive. We replay mistakes long after they've happened. The mind turns a single drop of rain into a flood. Guarding your mind at work means catching these thoughts before they overwhelm you. When you notice your pulse quickening or your chest tightening, pause. Take 3 breaths. Remind yourself, this is just a moment, not forever. The storm looks bigger when you stand in the middle of it, but step back and you'll see that it will pass, like all storms do. Another teaching is non-attachment. At work, we often tie our worth to outcomes. Praise from a boss, a project's success, a paycheck. When things go well, we rise high. When things go badly, we sink low. Buddhism teaches us to anchor our peace not in outcomes, but in effort. If you show up, act with integrity, and give your best, that is enough. The results may vary, but your peace doesn't have to rise and fall with them. Imagine you've worked for weeks on a presentation. You stand in the meeting, deliver it well, but the client doesn't bite. Without practice, you spiral into shame. With practice, you breathe, remind yourself, I did my part with honesty and care. The outcome wasn't mine to control. That's non-attachment in action, and it's a source of freedom. Compassion also belongs at work. It's easy to forget that the people around you, the stressed co-worker, the moody manager, are also carrying storms inside. When someone snaps at you, remember, it may not be about you at all. They may be wrestling with their own fears, their own deadlines, their own heavy load. Responding with calm instead of anger not only protects your peace, it sometimes shifts the energy in the whole room. Now let's ground this in a simple practice. Before each workday, set a small intention, something like, today I will meet stress with patience, or today I will listen more than I speak. Carry that intention like a stone in your pocket. When the storm rises, reach for it. Remind yourself of the promise you made. These small intentions create a sense of stability even when everything around you is chaotic. Take a breath here. Inhale slowly. Exhale gently. Picture yourself at work tomorrow. The phone ringing, the emails buzzing, the deadlines approaching. Now imagine yourself breathing calmly through it all, moving steadily, not rushing, not breaking. You are the tree with deep roots, bending but not falling. I want to invite you to reflect. What is the biggest storm you face at work right now? Is it stress, conflict, pressure, or maybe self-doubt? Share it in the comments if you'd like. Naming it is often the first step to loosening its hold. And who knows, someone else may read your words and realize they're not alone in their own storm. Work will never be free of challenges. But when you bring your practice into the office, the classroom, the shop floor, you stop being at the mercy of every gust of wind. You begin to carry peace with you, like an anchor in your chest. And the more you practice, the more others notice. Your calm becomes contagious. Your steadiness inspires. And soon, you're not only weathering storms, you're guiding others through them. But storms don't just appear at work. In today's world, one of the loudest and most relentless storms is online. Social media, news feeds, endless commentary voices that can lift you or tear you down in seconds. How do you hold your peace in a world where opinions come at you faster than you can breathe? That is the journey we'll take next. Voices online. The internet is like a crowded marketplace that never closes. Voices everywhere, some kind, some curious, some harsh, and some cruel. One moment you're scrolling peacefully, and the next you stumble across a comment that cuts deep. Maybe it questions your work, maybe it mocks your appearance, maybe it's just mean for no reason, and suddenly your peace is gone, stolen by a stranger behind a screen. Buddhism reminds us that words online are still just words. They may feel amplified because they're visible to so many, but at the core they are no different from spoken insults. They only hold power if you let them in. The screen doesn't change the truth. No one can hurt you without your consent. The question becomes, will you hand them that consent? Or will you hold your peace close like a flame sheltered from the wind? When you face negativity online, start with the pause. Your instinct may be to fire back, to prove them wrong, to defend yourself. But every reply fuels the fire. Take a breath. Step away from the screen if you need to. Ask yourself, does this person's opinion change who I am? Usually the answer is no. Their words reflect their mind, not your worth. Here's a simple perspective. Online comments are like pebbles thrown into a river. The water moves on. If the river stopped for every pebble, it would never reach the sea. In the same way, you keep flowing. You let the comments ripple and fade without changing your direction. Of course, there are positive voices online too. People who encourage, who support, who share wisdom. Part of guarding your mind in the digital world is choosing which voices to amplify. You can't control what's posted, but you can control what you focus on. Just as a gardener weeds out what doesn't belong, you can mute, block, or scroll past. What poisons your peace? Think about how much time you spend online. Every minute is a seed planted in your mind. What are you watering? Anger, comparison, envy? Or are you seeking gratitude, kindness, inspiration? The choice is yours, and the impact is real. Here's a practice you can try. Before opening social media, set an intention. I will look for joy, or I will focus on kindness. Carry that intention like a shield. When you encounter negativity, you'll be reminded not to absorb it. Instead, you'll tune your attention to the voices that align with your peace. And remember, silence is often your greatest response. Not every comment deserves your energy. Sometimes scrolling past is the most powerful act of strength, because when you refuse to engage, you refuse to hand over your peace. Let's breathe together here. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. Picture yourself holding a phone, scrolling through your feed. Imagine the negative words passing by like clouds drifting across the sky there for a moment, then gone. Now imagine the kind words, the supportive words, shining like sunlight through the clouds. Focus on that warmth, let it fill you, and keep moving forward. I'd like to invite you into the conversation. What's one positive voice you've found online that lifts you up? It could be a friend, a community, even a channel like this one. Share it in the comments. Your recommendation might become a light for someone else scrolling in the dark. Living peacefully online is not about disconnecting completely. It's about engaging mindfully, remembering that your inner calm is always yours to protect. When you master this, the internet becomes less of a storm and more of a tool, a place you can choose to water the seeds of wisdom instead of weeds of anger. But the digital world is only one distraction. The modern age offers countless others. Constant notifications, endless tasks, the pressure to always be doing more. These distractions pull at your attention every moment, and without care, they scatter your mind until you feel lost. So the next step is learning how to navigate these modern distractions without losing yourself. And that's where our journey goes next. Modern distractions. The modern world is loud. Notifications buzz like mosquitoes, advertisements chase you from screen to screen, and the pressure to always be available never really ends. It's as if life has become a constant juggling act, with one more ball always being tossed your way. And in the middle of it all, your mind feels scattered, pulled in 100 directions at once. These are the modern distractions, subtle, constant, and often more draining than we realize. Buddhism reminds us that distraction isn't new. The human mind has always wandered, chasing after whatever spark catches its attention. What makes today different is the sheer volume. We're carrying devices designed to keep us hooked, platforms built to capture our attention, schedules that glorify busyness. The challenge isn't just that distractions exist, it's that they're designed to feel irresistible. So how do you protect your peace in a world that profits from distraction? The first step is awareness. Notice when your attention drifts. Notice how it feels when you're pulled into scrolling, flipping channels, or answering every notification the second it arrives. Does it leave you feeling nourished or drained? Just noticing begins to loosen distraction's hold. The next step is creating intentional pauses. You can't control the noise of the world, but you can choose when and how you let it in. Try this. Before picking up your phone, pause and ask, why am I reaching for this? Do I need something, or am I just avoiding silence? That single question can stop hours of mindless scrolling before it begins. Another powerful practice is single tasking. In a culture that celebrates multitasking, Buddhism invites us to do the opposite. One thing at a time, with full attention. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you listen, just listen. You'll be amazed at how peaceful ordinary moments become when you stop splitting your attention into pieces. Think about cooking dinner. Usually it's rushed music playing, phone buzzing, mind already on tomorrow's tasks. But what if you slowed down? Notice the sound of the knife slicing vegetables, the smell rising from the pan, the warmth of the stove. Suddenly, cooking is no longer a chore. It's a practice, a meditation, a return to the present moment. You can also create intentional spaces free from distraction. Maybe it's a corner of your home where no devices are allowed. Maybe it's a walk outside without headphones. These small sanctuaries remind your mind what stillness feels like. And the more you taste that stillness, the more you'll crave it over constant noise. Take a breath here. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. Imagine yourself putting down your phone, turning off the endless stream of noise, and simply sitting in silence for a moment. Feel how rare and nourishing that silence is. That space is always available to you. You just have to choose it. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What's the biggest distraction you wrestle with right now? Social media, constant emails, maybe the pressure to stay busy? Share it in the comments, because naming it out loud is the first step toward loosening its grip. And your answer might help someone else realize they're not alone in their struggle. The truth is, modern distractions will never fully disappear. They're part of the world we live in. But by practicing awareness, by creating pauses, by protecting spaces of silence, you can stop them from stealing your peace. You can reclaim your attention as the precious gift it is. And once you learn to navigate distractions, you begin to see how these principles apply not just to your inner world, but to your relationships too. Because peace is not only about how you face yourself, it's also about how you show up for the people you love. That's the path ahead, bringing these teachings into friendships, families, and love, so that your calmness doesn't just live inside you, but radiates into your relationships. Relationships and peace relationships are some of the greatest sources of joy in life, and at the same time, some of the greatest sources of stress. Family arguments, friendship misunderstandings, romantic conflicts. they can shake you more deeply than almost anything else. Because when it comes to the people we love, the stakes feel higher. Their words sink in deeper, their actions affect us more, and our peace can be lost in an instant. Yet Buddhism reminds us that the very same principles that bring calm to our inner world can also transform our relationships. The first principle is listening. Not the kind of listening where you're already planning your reply, but true, quiet listening. Imagine sitting with a friend who's upset. Your mind wants to jump in with advice, with judgment, with solutions. But what they need most is presence, your calm attention. When you listen fully, without interruption, you're offering a rare gift in today's noisy world, the gift of being seen. And often, that alone begins to heal the conflict. Another principle is compassion. Every person you love, no matter how close, is carrying burdens you cannot see. The partner who snaps at you may be overwhelmed at work. The child who resists may be wrestling with fears they don't know how to express. The parent who criticizes may be projecting their own insecurities. When you remember this, you soften. You stop seeing only the sting of their words and start recognizing the pain beneath them. Responding with compassion doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean choosing to meet it with understanding instead of anger. Boundaries also matter. Buddhism teaches the middle way, not extremes of indulgence or avoidance. In relationships, this means finding balance between closeness and space. You give love, but you also protect your energy. You listen, but you also speak your truth. Boundaries are not walls, they're guideposts that keep relationships healthy, ensuring that peace is shared rather than drained. Think about your closest relationship. How often do small irritations spiral into big arguments simply because no one paused? Imagine instead pausing in that moment, breathing, remembering your purpose, choosing calm words instead of reactive ones. That pause can shift the entire conversation. It can turn what might have been an explosion into an opportunity to connect more deeply. Another practice is forgiveness. In relationships, mistakes are inevitable. Harsh words get said, promises get broken, misunderstandings pile up. Holding on to resentment poisons the bond. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it didn't hurt. It means choosing to release the weight so you can move forward lighter. Just as you want others to see your humanity, forgiveness allows you to honor theirs. Now pause here. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Picture someone you care about. Maybe there's tension between you, maybe not. Imagine surrounding them with calm, as if your breath carries compassion straight to them. Notice how even in thought, this practice softens your own heart. I'd like to invite you into this reflection. What's one principle you'd like to bring more intentionally into your relationships? Listening, compassion, boundaries, or forgiveness? Share it in the comments. Your answer may spark someone else to try the same, and together we build a ripple of peace beyond ourselves. When you bring these practices into your relationships, something powerful happens. Conflicts don't vanish, but they lose their destructive edge. You become steadier, you model calmness, and sometimes your steadiness inspires the people around you to soften too. A family dinner that once ended in tension might end in laughter. A friendship strained by misunderstanding might find new depth. A romance tested by stress might discover new strength. Peace in relationships doesn't mean perfection. It means presence, compassion, and balance. It means remembering that the people in your life are not obstacles to your calm, but opportunities to practice it more deeply. And when you carry peace into your relationships, you don't just keep it for yourself, you spread it. But relationships are not the only area where peace is tested. Money, work, career. These too can shake us, pulling us into fear, greed, or endless striving. So the next step is learning how to bring Buddhist principles into the way we think about money and livelihood, turning even those pressures into opportunities for balance. Money and mind. Money is one of the great paradoxes of modern life. On the one hand, it is essential. We need it for food, shelter, healthcare, the basics of living. On the other hand, money has the power to consume us, to trap us in cycles of fear and greed that can erode our peace faster than almost anything else. In America especially, where success is often measured in dollars, it's easy to forget that money is a tool, not a measure of your worth. Buddhism offers a different way to bring mindfulness and ethics into your relationship with money, so it serves your peace instead of stealing it. The Buddha taught about right livelihood, one part of the Eightfold Path. Right livelihood means earning money in ways that do not harm others, that are consistent with compassion and respect. When your work aligns with your values, you may still feel stress, but deep down there is steadiness. You know you are not betraying yourself for a paycheck. On the other hand, if money comes at the cost of integrity, it will never bring peace. The paycheck might be larger, but the unease it plants in your mind will weigh heavier than the dollars ever could. Think of it like this. Money is like water. When it flows ethically, it nourishes. It pays the bills, supports your family, gives back to your community. But when it flows from harm, it feels tainted. Even if the cup looks full, you don't want to drink from it. Another practice is non-attachment. Money is important, but clinging to it can create endless suffering. You've seen it. People chasing more, never satisfied, burning themselves out in the process. Buddhism teaches that peace doesn't come from how much you have, but from how lightly you hold it. Enough is a moving target in our culture, but if you pause, you'll see that many of the best things in life, laughter, kindness, sunsets, don't cost a cent. That doesn't mean ignoring money or pretending it doesn't matter. It means managing it wisely without letting it rule your heart. Budgeting, saving, living simply. These are acts of mindfulness too. Instead of chasing every shiny new thing, you choose to spend in ways that align with your values. You might ask, does this purchase bring lasting peace or just temporary distraction? Money also tests our relationships. Couples fight about it, families fracture over it, friends grow distant when money enters the picture. But when you approach it with openness, honesty, and compassion, money becomes less of a wedge and more of a tool for connection. Sharing fairly, giving generously, and respecting differences in how people handle money. These choices strengthen bonds instead of breaking them. Pause for a moment here. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Picture the role money plays in your life. Is it a constant source of worry, or can you begin to see it as just one tool among many? Imagine loosening your grip just a little, enough to breathe again. I want to hear from you. What's one small shift you could make in your relationship with money to bring more peace? Maybe it's practicing gratitude for what you already have. Maybe it's setting aside a little to give, even when it feels tight. Maybe it's simply refusing to compare your life to someone else's highlight reel. Share your thought in the comments. You may discover you're not alone in your struggles, and your words might encourage someone else to breathe easier too. Living mindfully with money doesn't mean rejecting success. It means defining success differently, not by the size of your account, but by the steadiness of your heart. True wealth is peace of mind, and that cannot be bought or sold. As you let this sink in, remember, life is not meant to be a sprint of endless striving. The next step on our journey is learning how to slow down, to step away from the culture of constant motion, and to rediscover the quiet joy of simply living. That's where we're headed next. Slow living. In the modern world, speed is celebrated. Fast food, fast internet, fast results. Productivity has become a kind of religion where slowing down feels almost like a sin. Yet when everything moves at full speed, life begins to blur. You rush through meals without tasting them, rush through conversations without hearing them, rush through days without living them. Buddhism reminds us that peace is found not in rushing, but in slowing down. Slow living is not laziness, it's the art of being fully present. Imagine walking through a park. If you rush, staring at your phone, you miss the golden light slipping through the leaves, the sound of birds calling to each other, the smell of grass after rain. But if you walk slowly, with awareness, suddenly the world becomes alive again. Each step is no longer just a way to get somewhere, it becomes the destination itself. Slow living begins with small choices. Instead of eating on the run, you sit and actually taste your food. Instead of filling every silence with noise, you allow space for quiet. Instead of saying yes to every invitation, you choose only what aligns with your values. Each decision becomes a way to reclaim your time, your attention, your peace. This way of living doesn't mean abandoning ambition or ignoring responsibility. It means recognizing that busyness does not equal meaning. You can accomplish more by doing less with intention than by doing more with distraction. Think of a candle. If you burn it at both ends, it doesn't last. But if you let it burn steadily, it gives light for a long time. Slow living is that steady flame. Here's a practice you can try tonight. Before bed, put your phone away. Pour yourself a glass of water or tea. Sit quietly for just 5 minutes and do nothing but notice your breath. Feel the rise and fall, the cool air coming in, the warm air going out. Notice how your body begins to settle. That 5 minutes of slow living can reset your entire evening, preparing you for rest. Tomorrow, try this. When you eat breakfast, do it without rushing. Notice the textures, the flavors, the warmth or coolness. Don't scroll, don't multitask, just eat. You'll be surprised how much more nourishing it feels. Slow living also means saying no. Saying no to commitments that drain you, no to schedules that leave no room for rest, no to expectations that aren't truly yours. Every no becomes a yes to what matters: your peace, your family, your health, your joy. Take a breath here. Inhale slowly. Exhale gently. Imagine stepping off a crowded, noisy street into a quiet garden. The noise fades, the pace slows. You are no longer rushing, you are arriving fully in this moment. I'd love to hear from you. What's one area of your life where you'd like to slow down? Work, meals, mornings, evenings? Share it in the comments. Sometimes voicing it is the first step to making it real. As you begin to practice slow living, you'll notice something beautiful. Joy returns to small things. A sip of coffee, a shared smile, a sunset. These small joys, once overlooked, become treasures. And that leads us perfectly into our next step, the practice of compassion in daily life, where every simple act becomes a chance to extend kindness to yourself and to others. Compassion. Daily. Compassion is often imagined as something grand, like saving lives or giving away everything you own. But in Buddhism, compassion is not about dramatic gestures. It's about daily choices, the small acts that turn ordinary moments into opportunities for kindness. Compassion practiced every day becomes a habit, and that habit shapes not only how you treat others, but also how you treat yourself. Think about the times you've been helped in small ways. Maybe someone held the door when your arms were full. Maybe a stranger let you merge during rush hour traffic. Maybe a friend sent a quick text just to check in. These moments don't make headlines, but they lift the heart. They remind you that you're not alone. And each of those moments was compassion in action. Daily compassion begins with presence. When you look into someone's eyes and really listen, you're offering compassion. When you notice that a coworker is struggling and you give them patience instead of pressure, you're offering compassion. When you forgive yourself for a mistake instead of repeating harsh words in your head, that too is compassion. Buddhism teaches that compassion grows when we see ourselves in others. Everyone you meet is carrying struggles you can't see. The cashier may be exhausted. The driver may be late for something important. The friend who seems distracted may be carrying a heavy grief. When you pause to consider this, you respond differently. Instead of frustration, you feel understanding. Instead of judgment, you feel softness. Here's a simple practice. Each morning, choose one small compassionate act to carry out that day. It could be as simple as smiling at a stranger, sending a kind message, or offering a compliment. At night, reflect on how it felt. These tiny acts may seem small, but they add up. They ripple outward in ways you may never see. And don't forget compassion for yourself. Often we are our own harshest critics. We replay our mistakes, tell ourselves we're not enough, and push ourselves without rest. But the Buddha taught that we should treat ourselves with the same kindness we'd give to a dear friend. When you stumble, instead of scolding yourself, try saying, "It's okay. I'm learning. I can try again." That shift transforms shame into growth. Pause with me here. Inhale slowly. Exhale fully. Imagine your breath carrying compassion into your heart. With each inhale, picture filling yourself with kindness. With each exhale, picture sending that kindness outward toward everyone you meet today. Now I'd like to invite you into the practice. What's one small act of compassion you could offer tomorrow to yourself or to someone else? Share it in the comments. Sometimes declaring it makes you more likely to follow through, and your idea might inspire others to try the same. Daily compassion isn't about being perfect. You will still get impatient, still get tired, still fall short. But when compassion becomes your habit, you return to it again and again. And over time, it becomes your natural way of being. People around you feel it, you feel it. And suddenly the world feels a little softer, a little more bearable. And compassion has a twin that is just as powerful: silence. Because sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is not to act, not to speak, but simply to hold space in quiet. Silence can heal, can comfort, can reveal truths that words often cover. That is where our next journey leads, into the teaching of silence and what it has to offer your peace. Silence. Teacher's silence often feels uncomfortable in our culture. In a conversation, when silence appears, someone usually rushes to fill it. In a room, if silence lingers, people grab their phones or turn on the television. But Buddhism teaches that silence is not empty, it is full of awareness, full of clarity, full of possibility. Silence has a way of teaching us things that words cannot. Think about the last time you were in nature without noise. Maybe sitting by a lake, maybe walking through the woods, maybe just standing outside at night. The silence wasn't awkward. It was calming, grounding. You could hear the soft rustle of leaves, the rhythm of your breath, the beating of your heart. In that quiet, you were reminded of something simple and powerful. Peace doesn't need words. It already exists underneath the noise. Silence is a practice. When you pause before speaking, you give yourself space to choose your words with care. When you listen in silence, you give others the chance to share what's truly in their hearts. When you sit in silence with yourself, you allow feelings to rise and fall without trying to fix or escape them. In this way, silence becomes a teacher of patience, compassion, and wisdom. The Buddha often spoke less than people expected. His silence was not indifference, but clarity. Sometimes the greatest teaching is not delivered in a lecture, but in a quiet presence that invites others to look inward. You've probably felt this with people in your own life, those who don't need to speak much, but whose calm silence brings comfort. Here's something to try. The next time you're in a conversation, resist the urge to fill every pause. Let the silence stretch a little. Notice what happens. Often, the other person will go deeper, revealing more of themselves, or the silence itself becomes a shared presence, stronger than words. Silence also teaches us about letting go. In arguments, we often throw words like weapons, hoping to win. But silence can be a different kind of strength. It can be a way of stepping back, refusing to fuel the fire. Not silence as avoidance, but silence as wisdom. The choice to keep peace rather than escalate conflict. Take a breath with me now. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Imagine sitting in a quiet room. No phone, no television, no noise. Just you and your breath. At first, the silence feels heavy, even loud. But as you sit, it softens. It begins to soothe you. And in that stillness, you notice things you hadn't before. The subtle rise and fall of your chest, the rhythm of your thoughts, the calm waiting beneath it all. I want to invite you to reflect on this. When was the last time silence brought you comfort instead of discomfort? Was it in nature, in meditation, in a quiet moment before sleep? Share it in the comments. Your story may remind someone else to rediscover the peace of quiet moments. Silence does not mean absence. It means presence without clutter. It teaches us that not everything needs to be said, not every moment needs to be filled. In silence, we discover that the mind begins to clear, the heart begins to soften, and peace begins to expand. When you embrace silence as a teacher, you carry it with you into the noise. You can be in a busy office, a loud household, or a crowded city, and still find a pocket of silence inside. That inner silence is unshakable. It belongs to you. And silence leads us naturally to the breath. Because the simplest way to touch silence is to return to the rhythm of breathing. Breath is always here, always steady, always carrying you back to peace. That is where our journey goes next. Into the quiet power of the breath. Breath of calm. Your breath is the most loyal companion you'll ever have. From the moment you arrive in this world until the moment you leave, your breath is with you. It never asks for attention, never demands anything, and yet it carries the secret to peace. Buddhism places great emphasis on breathing, not because it is exotic or mystical, but because it is ordinary. Breath is always here, always steady, always within reach. The breath is the anchor that brings you back to the present, no matter how far your thoughts have wandered. Think about what happens when stress hits. Your breath changes instantly. It becomes shallow, tight, rapid. Your body tenses, your heart races, your mind speeds up. But when you consciously return to your breath, everything shifts. Deep, slow breathing signals to your body that you are safe. Muscles relax, the mind slows, and suddenly the storm inside begins to quiet. This is not magic, it's biology, but it's also wisdom. Imagine you are caught in traffic, late for an appointment, irritation rising fast. You can sit there gripping the wheel, replaying angry thoughts, or you can turn to your breath. Inhale slowly through your nose, exhale gently through your mouth. Do it again and again. The traffic doesn't move faster, but your mind stops spiraling. You arrive not only at your destination, but also at yourself. The beauty of breath is that it needs no equipment, no schedule. You can practice in line at the grocery store, in a meeting, before bed, or in the middle of a difficult conversation. Breath is always available. And every time you use it, you are building resilience, training your mind to return to calm. Here's a simple practice. Try the 4-count breaths. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4. Repeat. This square rhythm creates a sense of balance, a steadying calm. Even just 2 minutes of this can change your entire state. Or try mindful breathing. Simply sit and notice each inhale, each exhale. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath. No judgment, no struggle. The breath becomes your home base. Each time you return, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. Take a breath with me now. Inhale slowly, feel your chest expand. Hold for a moment. Exhale gently, releasing tension from your shoulders, your jaw, your mind. Notice the shift. Notice the calm. I'd love to know, when was the last time you used your breath to calm yourself in a difficult moment? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might remind someone else of just how powerful and accessible this practice really is. The Buddha said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." But he also reminded us that the breath is the path to taming the mind. When you master your breath, you master your reactions. You carry peace with you into every situation because the anchor is always there. With practice, the breath becomes more than a tool. It becomes a way of life. You begin to move through your days with a natural rhythm, grounded and steady. Stress may still come, but it doesn't sweep you away. Anger may still rise, but it doesn't consume you. Your breath keeps you centered, calm, whole. And yet, as powerful as breath is, there's another lesson waiting just beyond it. Because even with breath as your anchor, peace also requires letting go. Holding on to grudges, expectations, or outcomes keeps us stuck. So our next step is learning the art of release. The power of letting go. Letting go. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning to release. We cling to so much possessions, relationships, expectations, even versions of ourselves that no longer exist. We hold on because letting go feels like loss, like giving up. But Buddhism teaches that holding on often causes more pain than release ever could. Peace comes not from clutching tightly, but from opening your hands. Imagine carrying a heavy bag of rocks. Each rock represents something you can't let go of. An old argument, a regret, a disappointment, a hope that never turned out the way you wanted. You keep lugging the bag around, convinced it's necessary. But over time, your back aches, your steps slow, and you feel drained. Now picture setting the bag down. Immediately, you feel lighter, freer, more able to keep moving. Nothing outside you changed. You just let go of the weight you didn't need. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending something didn't matter. It means acknowledging the experience, honoring what it taught you, and then choosing not to carry the pain forward. When you let go, you create space. And in that space, peace can finally enter. Take relationships as an example. Maybe someone hurt you years ago. You replay the memory again and again, each time reopening the wound. The anger feels justified, but it poisons you more than them. When you let it go, not excusing, not condoning, but releasing, you stop drinking the poison yourself. Forgiveness becomes freedom. Expectations are another heavy weight. You imagine how life should be, how your career should look by now, how your family should behave, how your body should appear, and when reality doesn't match, suffering appears. But life has never promised to match our expectations. It only promises to be what it is. Letting go of the script allows you to meet life as it unfolds, with openness instead of resistance. Here's a simple practice. Sit quietly and bring to mind something you've been holding on to, maybe a regret, maybe a grudge, maybe an expectation that keeps disappointing you. Picture it clearly. Then, with your next exhale, imagine releasing it. See it floating away like a balloon into the sky, becoming smaller and smaller until it disappears. You can repeat this as many times as you need. Each breath becomes a reminder that release is possible. Take a deep breath with me now. Inhale slowly, hold for a moment, and exhale gently. Feel the weight leave with your breath. Notice how your body softens when you stop clinging. Letting go also applies to identity. We often cling to labels, who we think we are, who others say we are. I'm successful. I'm a failure. I'm this kind of person. But these labels are temporary. Just as a river is never the same from one moment to the next, you are always changing. Clinging to an identity that no longer fits keeps you stuck. Letting go allows you to grow. I'd like to invite you into this reflection. What is one thing you know you've been holding on to that might be time to release? Share it in the comments if you feel ready. Just naming it can be the first step toward freedom, and your honesty might inspire someone else to do the same. The Buddha once said, "In the end, only three things matter: how well you loved, how fully you lived, and how deeply you let go." Notice that letting go stands alongside love and life. That's how important it is. Release is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is choosing freedom over chains, peace over pain. And when you practice letting go, something remarkable happens. You begin to see impermanence not as a threat, but as a gift. You realize that everything changes, and that truth can either break your heart or set you free. Which brings us to our next step: understanding the deep teaching of impermanence and how it transforms the way you see your life. Impermanence. Truth. Everything changes. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but the truth of impermanence is one of the most powerful and challenging teachings in Buddhism. Nothing stays the same. Not your body, not your relationships, not your circumstances, not even your thoughts. And yet, much of our suffering comes from pretending things will last forever. We cling to what we love, we resist what we dislike, and in both cases we forget everything is temporary. Imagine the seasons. Winter always gives way to spring. Spring becomes summer. Summer fades into fall. No season stays. The beauty lies in the cycle, not in permanence. Life is the same. Joy comes and goes, pain comes and goes, health and illness, gain and loss. If you can accept this rhythm, life feels lighter. If you fight it, every change feels like a betrayal. Think about your happiest moments: a vacation, a wedding, the birth of a child. In those moments, it's natural to wish time would freeze, but it doesn't. The vacation ends, the child grows, the moment passes, and yet the memory remains, and the beauty was real because it was fleeting. Like cherry blossoms blooming for only a week, their short life makes them more precious, not less. Now think of your hardest times: heartbreak, grief, loss, failure. In the middle of them, it feels like they'll last forever, like the pain will never ease. But here you are, listening tonight, proof that even those dark seasons passed. The storm didn't last. It never does. That is the promise of impermanence. Everything changes, and nothing stays stuck forever. Accepting impermanence doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You love deeply, knowing the moment is precious. You grieve fully, knowing the pain will soften. You live with openness, not resistance. Impermanence is not cruelty. It is the nature of life, and when embraced, it brings freedom. Here's a practice to try. Think of something you love right now: a person, a place, an experience. Acknowledge that it will not last forever. At first, this may feel sad, but then notice how this awareness makes you appreciate it more deeply. You savor the conversation, the laughter, the embrace, because you know it is fleeting. Now think of something painful you are experiencing. Remind yourself, this too will pass. It will change because everything changes. That reminder softens the edges of suffering. Take a slow breath with me. Inhale, hold it gently. Exhale. Imagine your breath as a wave. It rises, it peaks, it falls away. Each breath is impermanence in action. Nothing stays, yet the rhythm continues. Life itself is like breathing, always changing, always moving. I'd like to invite you into reflection. What's one moment in your life where impermanence surprised you? Maybe a joy that ended too soon, or a sorrow that didn't last as long as you feared. Share it in the comments, because stories of change remind us that nothing is fixed, and there is hope in that truth. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Impermanence teaches us to let go, to live fully in the present, to find beauty in the fleeting. It also teaches us humility, reminding us that we are part of a larger cycle beyond our control, and impermanence connects us to one another. When you realize everyone around you is also passing through cycles of joy and pain, you feel compassion. The person who snaps at you today may be in a season of struggle. The one who shines may be in a fleeting moment of joy. Nothing stays. Everything changes. When you embrace impermanence, peace becomes easier. You stop demanding life to hold still, and you begin to flow with its movement, and that flow carries us to our next step. Community. Because if life is always changing, one of the best supports you can find is a circle of people who walk the path with you. Let's step now into the strength of community and how it anchors us in a changing world. Community strength. Walking the path of peace can feel lonely at times. You practice patience while others rush. You try to let go while others cling. You breathe deeply while the world shouts for speed. But Buddhism teaches that we are not meant to walk alone. Just as a tree grows stronger in a forest, supported by the roots of those around it, we too draw strength from community. In Buddhism, this community is called the Sangha, a gathering of people who practice together, who encourage each other, who remind one another of the path when it feels difficult. Sangha doesn't have to mean monks in robes. It can be your friends, your family, or even an online circle of people who share the same values. What matters is that you are not alone, and you know where to return when your own strength falters. Think about the times you've faced challenges. Maybe grief after a loss, maybe stress at work, maybe fear about the future. Alone, the weight feels unbearable. But when someone listens, when someone simply sits with you, the weight lightens. That is the power of community. Not fixing your problems, but holding them with you until you remember you're strong enough to keep going. There's also accountability. When you set out to change your habits or deepen your practice, it's easy to drift. But when others walk with you, you are reminded to return. Like running with a partner, you keep going longer, steadier, because someone is by your side. Here's something you can try. Look around your life and identify one person who shares your interest in peace, mindfulness, or compassion. Reach out and invite them into a small practice with you. Maybe a weekly walk without phones. Maybe a short daily check-in about gratitude. These small shared practices become anchors, weaving community into the fabric of your day. Community also teaches humility. Alone, it's easy to believe we're right, to get lost in our own perspective. In community, we are reminded that everyone struggles, everyone learns, and everyone has wisdom to share. Listening to others broadens our own vision. We see that our path is part of a much larger journey, shared by many. Pause with me now. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Picture yourself surrounded by people who support you. Friends, mentors, even strangers you've yet to meet. Feel their presence as roots intertwined with your own, holding you steady, reminding you that you are not walking alone. I'd like to hear from you. Who in your life feels like part of your Sangha, your circle of strength? Share it in the comments, because naming those people is a way of honoring them, and your answer might remind others to reach out to their own circle. When you walk with community, peace becomes easier to hold. Joy multiplies when shared. Sorrow divides when carried together. You don't have to do this alone, and in fact, you were never meant to. And yet, There is a responsibility that remains yours alone: the practice of self-reflection. Community can guide you, but only you can turn inward, look honestly at yourself, and choose to grow. That is the step we will take next. The quiet power of reflecting on your own thoughts and actions, and how that reflection shapes your peace. Self-reflection. There is a mirror you cannot buy in any store, a mirror that shows more than your face. It shows your heart, your thoughts, your actions, your habits. That mirror is self-reflection. Buddhism teaches that true peace does not come only from listening to wise words or sitting in silence. It comes from looking honestly at yourself again and again, and choosing to grow. Self-reflection is not about judging yourself harshly. It is not about replaying mistakes until you feel small. It is about clarity. Just as a gardener checks the soil and the plants each day, self-reflection is checking the garden of your mind. What grew today? What weeds appeared? What flowers blossomed? This gentle looking allows you to see what needs attention. Imagine ending each day by asking 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? And what can I try differently tomorrow? These questions aren't punishments. They are lights along the path. By noticing your strengths, you build confidence. By noticing your mistakes, you learn. By planning your next step, you keep moving forward. Here's a simple practice. Before bed, sit quietly for 2 minutes. Replay the day like a movie. Notice moments of kindness, patience, or courage. Notice moments of anger, distraction, or fear. Don't cling to either. Just observe, like watching clouds pass across the sky. Then choose one small intention for tomorrow. In this way, every day becomes a teacher. Self-reflection also requires honesty. It's easy to blame others for our struggles, the rude co-worker, the unfair boss, the demanding partner. But reflection asks, what was my role? How did I react? Could I have chosen differently? This isn't about blame, it's about empowerment. If you see where your choices added to suffering, you also see where your choices can create peace. Pause with me here. Inhale slowly. Exhale gently. Imagine holding up that inner mirror. Look not with criticism, but with curiosity. What do you see in yourself tonight? What part of you is asking for kindness? What part is asking for strength? I'd like to invite you to share your own practice. Do you reflect daily, weekly, or only when life gets hard? What's one insight you've gained from looking inward? Share it in the comments. Your reflection may be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. The Buddha encouraged his followers to examine their lives constantly. He said not to accept even his teachings blindly, but to test them against your own experience. That is the heart of reflection, not blind faith, but honest seeing. What brings peace you keep, what brings suffering you release. Over time, reflection builds wisdom. You begin to notice patterns, the same fears returning, the same habits repeating. And once you see them clearly, you can change them. Without reflection, you remain stuck in cycles. With reflection, you step out of them. Self-reflection is also an act of compassion. Instead of demanding perfection, you acknowledge your humanity. You see your flaws, but you also see your potential. You forgive yourself for yesterday while committing to be better today. That balance, honesty, and compassion together is what makes reflection so powerful. And here's the gift. When you practice reflection, your peace grows stronger. You stop being surprised by your own reactions because you've already studied them. You know your triggers, you know your strengths, and you know how to return to balance more quickly. Life still brings challenges, but you face them with more awareness, more clarity, more resilience. As this settles, notice how reflection connects back to everything we've discussed. Purpose, patience, gratitude, compassion. They all grow stronger when you take time to reflect. Without reflection, they fade into theory. With reflection, they become part of who you are. And once you begin to see yourself clearly, you also start to notice the world around you differently. The smallest joys, ones you may have rushed past before, suddenly shine brighter. That's where we'll go next. Learning to find joy in the little things, the overlooked treasures that make life rich. Little joys. Life often convinces us that happiness lies in the big milestones. Graduations, promotions, weddings, dream vacations. We chase after them, believing joy is waiting somewhere in the future. But Buddhism reminds us that true peace and happiness live in the small, ordinary moments we often overlook. The little joys are not filler between the big events. They are the substance of life itself. Think about the feeling of sunlight warming your skin on a cool morning, or the sound of laughter drifting from another room, or the smell of coffee brewing while the world is still quiet. These moments are easy to miss when you're rushing. But if you pause, they become treasures, and the more you notice them, the richer your life feels. The mind loves to complicate happiness. It says, "I'll be happy when I earn more, when I move, when I fix everything." But happiness doesn't wait in the distance. It hides in the details. The gentle breeze, the hug of a friend, the taste of a meal. When you train your mind to notice these joys, you discover that happiness is not something you chase. It's something you allow. Here's a simple practice. Each evening, think of 3 small joys from your day. Not big accomplishments, small ones. The smile of a stranger, the softness of your pillow, the way the sky turned pink at sunset. Write them down if you like, or simply hold them in your heart before you sleep. This daily ritual rewires your brain to seek joy in ordinary moments. Pause with me now. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. As you breathe, picture one small joy from today. Maybe it was a taste, a sound, a moment of connection. Let yourself relive it, savoring it like a piece of chocolate melting slowly on your tongue. Notice how even the memory brings calm and warmth. I'd like to hear from you. What's one small joy you noticed recently? Share it in the comments. It could be simple, even silly, the way your dog greeted you, the sound of rain, a song on the radio. Sharing these joys not only lifts you, but it lifts others who read them. The Buddha once said, "Do not overlook tiny good deeds, thinking they are of no benefit." Joy works the same way. The small joys, collected day after day, build a life that feels whole. Without them, even the grandest achievements can feel empty. In our culture, we're taught to chase bigger and faster. But what if happiness is not at the top of the mountain, but in the steps you take to climb it? Each step, each breath, each small joy is the mountain. And when you start living this way, you stop waiting for happiness to come later. You begin to live it now. Over time, noticing little joys changes how you see the world. Instead of focusing only on what's missing, you begin to see what's already here. Stressful moments soften because you remember the good hiding nearby. Even hard days carry sparks of joy if you look closely enough. And when you begin to live with this awareness, something else happens. The way you respond to others shifts. Instead of reacting with irritation or anger, you start to meet people with kindness because your heart is already full. And that leads us naturally to our next step: how to respond with kindness, even when the world gives you reasons not to. Respond with kindness. Imagine someone cutting in front of you in line, or a co-worker snapping at you when you've done nothing wrong. The first reaction that often rises is irritation, maybe even anger. You want to snap back, to make them feel what you're feeling. But Buddhism offers another path responding with kindness. It's not the easy response, but it's the one that protects your peace. When you meet anger with anger, the fire only grows hotter. When you meet cruelty with cruelty, the cycle deepens. But when you meet negativity with kindness, something shifts. You break the pattern. The other person may not change, but you remain free. You don't hand over your calmness to someone else's storm. Kindness doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes it's as simple as taking a breath before you speak. Sometimes it's choosing silence over a sharp reply. Sometimes it's offering a smile when someone least deserves it. These small choices add up, creating a habit of kindness that reshapes not only your relationships, but your own inner world. Think of a time when someone surprised you with kindness, even when you didn't expect it. Maybe you were having a bad day. Maybe you were short with them, and instead of snapping back, they offered patience. How did it feel? That softness lingers long after the moment ends. When you choose kindness, you offer that same gift to others. Of course, kindness is not weakness. It doesn't mean letting others walk all over you. You can still set boundaries, still speak truth, still stand firm, but the way you do it can carry compassion instead of hostility. Picture telling someone, calmly but firmly, that their words were hurtful. You're not attacking, you're clarifying. That balance is where true strength lives. Here's a practice to try. Tomorrow, choose one situation where you might normally react with irritation. Maybe in traffic, maybe at work, maybe at home. Decide ahead of time that you will respond with kindness. Maybe it's a smile. Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's letting the small thing go. Notice how it feels to take the higher path and how it affects the energy around you. Pause with me here. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. As you breathe, imagine your heart softening. Picture kindness flowing through you, not as something you have to force, but as something natural, waiting to be released. Every breath becomes an opportunity to spread that softness outward. I want to invite you to reflect. What's one recent moment when you had the chance to react with anger but chose kindness instead? Or maybe a time when you wish you had chosen differently. Share it in the comments. Your story may encourage someone else to try kindness in their own storms. The Buddha said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love." And this doesn't mean you ignore injustice or pretend everything is fine. It means you refuse to let hatred win inside your own heart. Responding with kindness protects you as much as it helps others. Over time, kindness becomes second nature. You notice that anger visits less often. You feel lighter, steadier, more open. And you see how your responses influence others. Your calmness spreads. Your kindness becomes contagious. And suddenly, peace isn't just inside you, it's in the space between you and everyone you meet. But to keep that peace steady, we need balance. Too much indulgence or too much restraint can both lead to suffering. That's why Buddhism teaches the middle way, a path of balance that avoids extremes. And that is where we'll turn next. Middle way life often tempts us into extremes. We swing between overindulgence and harsh denial, between working endlessly and collapsing into exhaustion, between holding on too tightly and letting go of everything. These swings create suffering because they keep us off balance. Buddhism offers an alternative, the middle way. It is not about compromise in the sense of settling for less, but about harmony, a path that avoids the extremes and allows peace to grow. The middle way was the very foundation of the Buddha's awakening. Before enlightenment, he lived as a prince, surrounded by luxury, indulging in every comfort. Later, he became an ascetic, starving himself, denying every pleasure. Neither path brought him peace. It was only when he walked between them, eating enough to live, resting enough to think clearly, practicing with steadiness instead of extremes, that he found awakening. His life became proof that balance is not weakness, it is wisdom. Think about your own life. Maybe you've tried to push yourself relentlessly at work or in school, only to burn out. Or maybe you've avoided responsibility altogether, only to feel lost and restless. Neither extreme brings lasting peace. The middle way reminds us that discipline matters, but so does rest. Effort matters, but so does ease. It's not either or, it's both, woven together in balance. The middle way also applies to emotions. When anger rises, the extreme is to explode or to suppress it completely. The middle way is to notice it, breathe with it, and respond wisely. With desire, the extremes are to indulge recklessly or to deny yourself harshly. The middle way is to enjoy without clinging, to appreciate without becoming trapped. Here's a simple practice. The next time you face a decision, pause and ask, am I leaning toward an extreme? Am I chasing too much or denying too much? Then ask, what would balance look like here? Maybe it's resting when you're tired but still showing up when it matters. Maybe it's enjoying dessert without guilt but not eating until you're uncomfortable. The middle way is rarely dramatic, but it is always steady. Pause with me here. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Imagine yourself walking on a path through the woods. On one side is a steep cliff, on the other a tangled forest. The extremes are dangerous, but right in the middle, the trail is clear. Each step is firm, balanced, safe. That is the middle way, a path you can trust beneath your feet. I want to invite you to reflect. Where in your life do you feel pulled toward extremes? Work, health, relationships, even your spiritual practice. Share your thoughts in the comments. Naming the extremes helps you begin to find the middle ground. Living this way requires awareness. The extremes will always call to you. The world often celebrates them. Work harder. Go bigger. Deny yourself more. Indulge without limit. But when you step back, you see that peace is not in the shouting. It is in the balance, the steady rhythm that doesn't burn you out and doesn't leave you empty. The middle way does not mean your life becomes boring. In fact, it makes life richer. Because when you're balanced, you can fully experience joy without clinging to it, and fully experience sorrow without being crushed by it. You flow with life instead of fighting against it. And balance prepares you for integration. Because the truth is, these principles we've explored, purpose, patience, compassion, gratitude, silence, breath, letting go, are not meant to stand alone. They are threads in a single fabric. The next step in our journey is weaving them together into a way of life that carries you forward with strength and calm. Integrating all 10. We've walked through each principle one by one. Purpose, resilience, patience, silence, gratitude, balance, and more. Each teaching stands strong on its own, but their true power is revealed when they come together. It's like instruments in an orchestra. A violin alone is beautiful, but when joined by drums, flutes, and cellos, the sound becomes fuller, richer, alive. In the same way, when you integrate all 10 principles, they harmonize into a life of steady peace. Integration means you stop treating the teachings as separate lessons and start weaving them into your daily rhythm. Purpose gives you direction. Guarding your mind keeps distractions from stealing your focus. Compassion softens your interactions. Breath anchors you when storms rise. Gratitude becomes the armor that shields your heart. Balance ensures you don't burn out. One principle strengthens the next, until they create a net strong enough to carry you through anything. Imagine a difficult day at work. You wake up and begin with purpose, setting your intention. At lunch, you pause and notice little joys, guarding your mind from negativity. Later, a co-worker criticizes you unfairly, but instead of reacting with anger, you breathe and respond with kindness. By evening, you reflect on the day, seeing both your patience and your mistakes. Through it all, gratitude keeps you steady, reminding you that even a hard day holds gifts. That is integration, not perfection, but practice woven into every moment. Integration also means recognizing that the path is never finished. You don't master one principle and move on. They continue to circle back, deepening as you live them. Some days, gratitude flows easily, but patience feels hard. Other days, compassion comes naturally, but letting go feels heavy. That's okay. The practice is not about achievement. It's about returning, again and again, to the tools that bring you peace. Pause with me here. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. As you breathe, picture each principle as a stone. One by one, you lay them out. Purpose, patience, compassion, breath, gratitude, silence, balance. Now imagine stacking them, each supporting the other, until they form a sturdy tower. That tower is you, steady in the winds of life. I want to invite you into reflection. Which of the 10 principles has spoken to you most deeply so far? Which one feels hardest to live out? Share it in the comments, because naming your answer helps you see your own path clearly, and your words might spark insight for someone else walking beside you. Integration doesn't mean you live without mistakes. You will still stumble. You will still lose your temper, forget gratitude, or cling to things you meant to release. But when you've woven these teachings together, you don't fall as far. You notice more quickly. You return more gently, and you grow stronger each time. Over time, the teachings stop feeling like lessons and start feeling like who you are. They are not something you practice only on a cushion or only in quiet moments. They become your way of living, how you eat, how you walk, how you speak, how you love. They become the fabric of your days. And when that happens, something profound unfolds. Peace is no longer just a practice. It becomes your nature. People around you notice. They feel calmer in your presence. They see your steadiness, your kindness, your joy, and they want to know where it comes from. In that way, your life itself becomes a teaching without you ever needing to preach. Integration is where wisdom turns into strength, where daily practice becomes effortless, where peace stops being something you chase and starts being something you live. And as you hold all 10 principles together, you are prepared for the final step, bringing the journey to a close, resting in peace and carrying it forward into tomorrow. That's where we'll go next, into our final section, where we close this story softly, like a lullaby. Peaceful closing. We have reached the end of this journey together, and now the pace slows. Every word, every breath, every pause is meant to guide you gently toward rest. Think back over the path we've walked. 10 principles woven into 30 reflections. Each one has been a candle, lighting a little more of the way, showing you that peace is not somewhere far away. It is here. It has always been here, waiting quietly inside you. Buddhism reminds us that the mind is like a sky. Thoughts come and go like clouds. Storms may roll in, but the vastness of the sky remains unchanged. Tonight, as you lie back, let your mind be that open sky. Whatever worries you carried into this evening, imagine them drifting by. The storm softens, the wind settles, the sky clears. Beneath it all, your peace is steady. As we close, notice how each principle connects. Purpose gave you direction. Guarding your mind protected your garden. Compassion softened your steps. Breath became your anchor. Gratitude turned even hardships into lessons. Silence taught you to listen. Balance steadied your path. Together, they created a life that no storm can destroy. This is the gift of practice, not perfection, but peace that grows stronger with every return. Take a slow breath with me. Inhale deeply, hold it gently. Exhale slowly. Let your body sink into the bed or chair where you rest. Feel the support beneath you. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let your hands unclench. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to fix, nothing to prove. For this moment, simply being is enough. If you've stayed with me through these teachings, I want to thank you. Your presence here matters. You've chosen to nurture your inner world, to water seeds of peace instead of weeds of worry. That choice changes you, but it also ripples outward, touching the people in your life in ways you may never fully see. I'd love to hear from you. As we close this series, which part of the journey touched you most? Was it gratitude as armor, or the breath as calm, or the reminder to slow down? Share it in the comments. Your reflections may be the encouragement someone else needs tonight. Now, close your eyes if you haven't already. Imagine yourself walking a quiet path at dusk. The air is cool, the sky painted in soft colors fading into night. Fireflies blink in the distance, guiding your way. With each step, you feel lighter. You're carrying nothing, holding on to nothing, just walking, just breathing, just being. The path leads you to a quiet home, safe and warm. You step inside, close the door behind you, and settle into rest. This is where we leave off for now, but remember, the journey doesn't end here. Every morning you rise, every evening you close your eyes, the principles remain with you. They are companions, steady and kind, waiting for you to return to them whenever you forget. Before you drift fully into sleep, I ask one last thing. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so that you'll always know when the next story arrives to guide you deeper into peace. Only do it if you feel these stories have brought you value, because authentic connection matters more than numbers. And as the night deepens, let the words fade, let the breath slow, let the body rest. Ahead lies another journey, another story, another step along the path. In the next video, we'll continue exploring how Zen stories can help you carry calm into the busiest corners of your life. For now, let this be enough. Let yourself be held by silence. Let yourself be cradled by peace. Sleep is waiting, soft and steady, ready to welcome you. End of script. Sweet dreams.